Good morning, crafty friends. Today's session is just going to be on the fly. I have no real big plans. Just wanted to show a little bit of journaling, or art journaling, I should say. I'm just going to use half of the page, as this is a pretty big canvas, and I don't think anybody wants to watch me go through all of that. So I'm just going to start with some Distress Oxide inks, and I'm just going to start ink blending, and I'm using the colors that I'm using because I am working off of the color palette from this Petal and Plume 49th and Market, Plume and Petal, sorry, the Rubon transfer sheet. So I'm working off of these colors. I want to do some Rubons on here, so that's the rhyme and reason behind this color palette. So first we're just going to lay down some color. I'm not going to do the adding of papers and gesso because that just takes a lot of time to dry. And so I want to show you how you can get some color laid down with just inks and some sprays, some stencils, the Rubons, and then some stamping. We're just going to keep rubbing on and add color. Of course, if you want the color to be darker, then go ahead and add it a lot darker. This is as you desire. So of course, also your mileage may vary, meaning that how much color you lay on, where you lay the color, is going to be different and unique for every person. I'm sorry if this is, my table seems to be wiggling a little bit, so I apologize if the video is wiggling. I'm going to try to be a little bit more gentle with my ink blending to kind of hold down or keep the jiggling to a minimum. Now I'm using the same brush on this. I should have done the lighter one first, but at some point it will come off because I'm going to use enough ink for that. So I'm not worried about staining my pad. But in general, I usually do the lighter color first if I'm intending to use the same brush. That way I don't have to worry about the color transfer so much. But it's Tuesday and mistakes will be made. It's fine. I'm going to come in. This time I am choosing my lighter color first. Again, I'm just adding the color randomly because I just want to lay some color down on the page to get us more background and less white or creamy ecru surface to cover. It's okay to use leave some of the plain background because that'll act as a highlight, but I'm just covering up some of it. And it's not going to look perfect. As this dries more and more, it will sink into the paper more, so it'll smooth out. I'm just using Distress Oxides because it's what I have, it's what I like. I like the colors. The colors matched what I was doing. You can use the same technique as long as you have a water reactive ink. I have Distress dye inks and oxides, and I love them. It's what I reach for the most. But there's some other good ones out there that you can use if you so desire. Distress has been around for a long time, over 20 years, so it's a good product with a good track record. Okay, now just a little bit of the grays, and then we'll start adding some texture with some different techniques. This gray is a little bit lighter, so it's not going to show up quite as much as the other colors I've added, and that's okay. And then I think I want to add just a little bit of the darker gray, Hickory Smoke. Just adding color wherever I want to. There is really absolutely no rhyme or reason to where I'm adding the color and why. Just trying to lay color down on the page. Okay. Get that smoothed in a little bit. All right, so now I have a base of color laid down, and I'm going to do a few techniques to add some texture to it. The first one will be I'm going to take my spray, and I'm going to just spray some water in my hand, and then I'm going to flick it onto the page. Then I'm going to take a paper towel, place this over the top. And you could let this dry on its own, and if you do that, it'll have less of a stark. You see how much of the color that it picked up there? If you let it dry on its own, or you help it dry with a dryer, it's going to have a slightly different look due to the way that the water is evaporated. If you do it with the dryer, you can see here that it leaves more of a water droplet look and it doesn't take as much of the color, but it certainly does add a lot of texture. So we're going to do that, and then I'm going to do this a second time to add a bit more texture. This one I do want it to dry a little bit more naturally, so I'm just going to use the dryer real quick. I do like this dryer. This is the Ranger Heat It craft tool. It is much quieter than an embossing heat tool. It spreads the heat out. So if you're using an embossing gun for this, embossing focuses the air into one spot. This one kind of spreads it out in a not as hot. And so it does dry very nicely. So I'm just wanting to do a quick dry, and you can see the texture that's showing up when I do this versus when I use the paper towel, which takes up a lot of the color, and that's fine too. Either way, both add some nice interest to your page. So I have some nice spots here, and so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a stencil and I'm going to do some ink blending through the stencil. And then I'm also going to do probably some sprays, and then I will maybe add a little texture paste. So now I'm just going to go over this in areas. It doesn't have to be the whole image. I just want to add some little bits of texture. And I'm going to turn this a different direction also, so I get a different angle. And that one looks nice. I'm going to do it down here in the corner. Oh, boy, it's acting like a Monday for me. Okay, so now I have that. I do have some color on here. I'm going to add a little bit more. So add a little bit more ink on here, and then I'm going to spray it. And then I'm going to stamp this down. So again, I have now a different look through this stencil. There's that, and see how it's picking up some of the other ink because it's water reactive. I'll do it over here. Well, I'm picking up that ink because of the extra water that's on there. I'm going to go ahead and dry it. If you're not drying, it just takes longer, but since I'm doing a video, I do want to dry in between these steps just so we can move quickly to the next portion and you don't have to wait. Also, because I would rather just make the video than spend a lot of time editing. And so here's an even more subtle look. Not sure which one I like better, because I do like how it picked up some of that color and laid it down, but then I like the outline here. A little bit more subtle. Okay, and I'll spray this one more time because I see still just a little bit more ink on here, and I want to get just a little more. There we go. And then I'll just wipe off the rest of that. Okay, so now we have this on there. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a stamp set and I'm going to add a little bit of texture that way before I start adding Rubons and any texture paste. Everything that I'm showing you here today is available in the Tilted Brick store. So feel free to go in and check out what they have in case you want to do something similar. So this stamp set I'm using is Indigo Blue Hibiscus, but you can use whatever you have in your stash. I'm using this one because it has some nice stamps that have different textures on them. I'm using my VersaFine Clair. This is a pigment ink, but it's also waterproof when dry. And so I like to use it because when I'm doing this, none of my, nothing I stamp is going to run. If I don't mind if it runs, then I'll use a different ink. But this one, I want it to be a little bit, I want it to be color fast. I'm just adding little bits here and there just to add texture. And you notice I only inked it up one time because I like the lighter colors that I'm getting. And when you do this, you do not necessarily need to have a block. If you want a block, you can, but you don't have to use a block for that. Now I'm going to use this one that has some script on it or text. And I think I want the text to be a little bit lighter, so I'm going to stamp it off on a piece of paper first. And then I'm going to add it. Just lightly adding. I don't even care if it captures the whole thing. Do it in a couple different directions. We're just adding this to give it texture, a background, some more bits in there. Okay, there's that one. And then I like this little tile looking stamp, so we're going to do this one. I'm stamping up parts of it. Not worried about it. Oops, I did get my fingers dirty, so I'm going to wipe that off so I don't get big blotches of color based on where my fingers are. Okay, now we'll do this. You notice I'm not stamping the entire image again, I'm just stamping portions of it. So this doesn't have to be perfect. Just want to get some texture laid down in the background. And there we go. Okay, so the next step is I think I'm going to add some rub-ons, and then after the rub-ons I'll add some paste. So again, I'm using the Petal and Plume, and so that was the color Plume and Petal. I don't know why I keep calling it the other. So now I'm just going to use, oh, look at that. That stamp that I used is very similar to the rub-on. So I'm going to use some of these on there in different places. So the first thing that I need to do is decide which ones I'm going to use and then get a pair of scissors, which I laid my scissors somewhere on my desk. Tell me, has anyone else had that problem? You keep losing the scissors that you have, which is why I have about 20 pairs of scissors, to be honest. Okay, I'm going to reach up and grab a pair I don't normally grab. Okay, so I want this one. I'm just going to cut that out. I'm going to cut a couple of these out. We'll do 3. I like to do things in groups of 3, so we'll use those. Then I want to use this one. And this one. Just go ahead and cut several out at one time so we can get them on there. Move to the next page. I really like this wood grain look background, but since I already have this texture here, this shape, I think I'm going to go ahead and use that. And I'm going to grab that little word right there. Okay. And then we'll add some words and some feathers. But I'm going to cut these out first and then we'll add them and see where we want to put everything. Okay, so each one I'll cut separately so we can kind of lay out. All right, so then I'll just take the backing paper off and figure out where I want to lay this. And then we'll start the rub-on process. You just need a nice tool for it. I have a nice bone folder that's good for that. A lot of these will come with popsicle sticks, so you can use those. I don't necessarily need the words on there. Fine. Oops, I want that one more in the corner there. Okay. Then this pretty one. So what do we have on there? 3 so far. Put this one here, right on the edge. Then this one. And I think I'll cut these feathers apart. These words also happen to be a rub-on, and I'm not going to add the advertisement of it onto my page, so I'm just going to cut that off. And I'll cut around this, and I'll leave some of that extras with that. Put this, let's see, maybe I'll move this one if it's not stuck on there yet. It's kind of stuck. I'm going to leave that there. So I'll put this up in this corner here, I think, or that's a good blank spot right there. That one, this little feather can come up here, and then one last piece, and then we'll get these started rubbing on. Put this right here. Okay, so now I'm going to just reach for my little, this is my little bone folder tool. Just rub. And usually if you rub, you can start seeing where the image goes gray. That's when it's releasing from the paper. Once I see that, then I will start to pick it up. And if I can see that the image is still stuck on the paper, then I put it back down and start rubbing again. In a book, it's a little bit more difficult just because the surface is a little softer. I'm going to use my pokey tool to help me lift up the paper. There we go. And so, see right there, it's still, now it's coming off. Once you have a good portion of it coming off, you can usually just gently start moving around the image, and most of it will release. It doesn't have to be perfect. So if it doesn't all come off, I'm not very sad about it, because this is a distressed kind of background, so it doesn't have to be perfect for me. Again, so next one. And I'm moving my hand in this way. I know it looks awkward because for some reason, and that reason is I'm getting older, I have a little arthritis or something going on in my pointer finger today, so everything I'm doing is hurting. It's kind of awkward when you go to brush your teeth and your finger hurts. But those are the joys of getting older, right? At least I have the opportunity to get older. So I will take that. I don't like the aches and pains, but the rest of it's okay. Okay, let's see. You can see right there where that 0 is, that it's already starting to turn gray. Right there. And so if I lift this up slowly, I'm having a hard time lifting it up. There we go. Then I'm going to get most of that image is going to come off. And again, if I find that it's not, I'll just lay it back down and continue rubbing. Like my number 4 there is not coming off. Turn that over. Do that. And see the difference, the gray versus the color. So you can just start seeing as it starts laying down. And there we go. There's the next one. Oops, I didn't get that part, so we'll come back over here. There we go. Okay. Next, I'm going to work on this one in the corner. You can see how much easier that one has come off. And I just go ahead and smooth them down because sometimes there'll be a little, like right here, a little rough edge. And I want to smooth that down so it doesn't rub off. Or I'm going to rub off part of it so that it doesn't come up when I'm working on it. Because these are meant to look distressed, so if part of it doesn't stick, that's fine. Okay. This is a quick way to add some color, some interest, some texture to your project. Typically I do cards, but I thought I would do an art journal entry for you guys today. So you can see something different from me. Okay. That one. You have to give it a little bit more oomph because it's not coming off. Okay, let's see. We got some of that. Oh, these little splotchy parts right here do not want to settle. Okay, well, I'm going to give a little bit more, and then I'm just going to rip it off. If it doesn't stick, it doesn't stick, because I got plenty on there. There we go. Now we're getting somewhere. There we go. Perfect. Perfection. Doesn't have to be perfect to love it. I wish this little splotchy part would have gone down, but it didn't want to, so we're calling it good. So there's this. Oops, felt my plastic over here. I have one more. This one's really light, though. It's been sitting there long enough that I think the moisture from the page has helped it to already start the process for me. So then that. And there we go. Now those are our rub-ons. I think I will add sentiment rub-ons on here, like cherish good times maybe, or celebrate the little things. Find a spot for that, and then we'll do some paste. And then maybe a little bit of sprays. I will probably try to decide if I should put the words on right now or wait, or just spray in a different location. That's probably what I'll do. Spray in a different location. So we'll put this right here. So we have our little words or sentiment for this. And well, this one, because it's words, I do have to be a little more perfect with it. Make sure you get all the letters down. You don't want to have part of your word there. Almost got it. Just the edge of the S doesn't want to go on. There we go. Okay, now we're getting it. All right, a little bit at a time. Keep going, keep going. All right. It's working. Yay. Okay, we got that. So last step is I'm going to add, you can use multiple stencils, lots of different shapes and stuff. I'm just, for ease and quickness of having something at hand, I'm going to use the same stencil I've been using this whole time. I'm going to grab some distress paste. We have several different kinds of paste in the Tilted Brick. So feel free to go and check out the different kinds. We also have lunar paste and some other pastes from different companies that have color in them already. This one just happens to be a white crackle paste. And so I'm just going to rub it through here in different places. Put a nice thin coat on. But you want to be able to see the surface underneath, so that's how thin you want it to be. And depending on how stressed or not you want it to look, you want to fill in the spaces or not. Like I'm going for a more distressed look, so I don't mind that that's not filled in all the way. Then I'm going to lift this up and I'm going to move it to another location. I'll put it right here, but I want to make sure that I don't get any of the paste on my words, because this is an opaque paste, so you're not going to be able to see through it. I just want to add a little bit. When you're using paste on a stencil, you do want to rinse it off pretty quickly because that will stick. And it'll dry there and then it will not come off. Now, once it's dried on there, it's probably not going to cause any problems, but if it's on there too thick, you know, then you're going to lose your openings and stuff. So you do want to clean that and the tool quickly. So now I have paste on there and I like the way that looks. This is crackle paste, which does its best if left to dry naturally, but because I want to add a little bit of sprays here to show you that, I'm going to go ahead and just quickly add a little bit of heat to dry it so I can spray it. So you can see how it reacts with the spray. It'll still have some crackle to it, but it does its best to crackle when it dries naturally. Oh, see there, right there, you can really see. Can you see how that crackle is coming through there? I'll lift this up a little bit so you can see the crackle. So, okay. Now I brought a couple of sprays out, some oxide sprays and just some spray stains in the same colors that I used to ink blend on the background. So this one is the oxide. The oxides are going to sit on top. I'm just going to add a little spritz. Then I'll add a little bit of stain. And I don't want to add too much. And then I'm going to add water so it kind of spreads. And then add a little bit of, actually let that kind of run some. Let it run on the page for those water droplets. If you have a paintbrush, you can also use that to help the color spread. And then lastly, I think I'm going to leave some of these white. I really like the crackle that's starting to show through. Once this dries all the way, the color will also settle into the cracks, which will make a nice effect. I'm just trying to speed the process for you to see what it looks like. If I were just working on this at home and not doing a video, I would just leave it out to dry until it was naturally dry. Okay, the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this sparkle, the Distress Spritz, and I'm going to do some splatters on the page. When you're doing oxides or distress spirits or anything that has a mica in it, you want to shake it and then look at the bottom of your bottle, because that's where all the mica and stuff will settle. And once most of that or all of it is gone, then it's ready to use. And this one I'm just going to do splatter, so I'm going to take the top off and I'm going to just tap, tap. And this has, the spritz has a sparkle when dry and just a hint of color. So we'll see if the camera picks that up. Sometimes it's really hard to pick up a sparkle. And you can see this one's taking a little bit longer to dry. I'm hoping to get some of it dry so I can show you the sparkle. There we go, that's starting to come through. As you can see the little bit of shine that it adds. It's very subtle, but I just think it's so pretty. And a little bit more. These bigger drops will be great for showing the sparkle, because you'll be able to see it a lot better. Okay. Now I'm going to lift this up one more time and show you. See if you can see that sparkle that's in there. Can you see? And then that is the finished page. So let me know what you think. And I thank you guys for watching today, and have a great day.